everybody, it's Book Crazy Katie. Today's video is Cairo book review, and please find me on social media at the following. Hey everyone, it's Book Crazy Katie, and today's video is a review of the book Cairo by Louis Omar. I gave this book 3 stars out of 5, and I want to let you know what I liked about it and what I didn't like about it. I'm going to start off with the cover. This is a beautiful cover. Look at it. It's amazing. It's really what drew me in. And then this is what it says on the back. It doesn't give you that much of a synopsis, and that is a good thing sometimes, you know? But it's frightening, hilarious, insane. What do a crash satellite, a string of bizarre murders, and a time-warp conspiracy have in common? Welcome to Cairo, where the future is just a game and you're already dead. Sounds interesting. So you get the idea that it's sci-fi and mystery and maybe a little more, but I would say it's a sci-fi horror novel, and I'm gonna discuss what I know and what I don't know. Because this book left me with a lot of questions and a lot of uncertainties, and now that it's been almost 2 weeks since I read it, it's leaving me with a lot of gaps in the story that I can't remember reading. And I think a lot of it deals with the writing style of this book, which I kind of liked and kind of hated at the same time. But I think there's more cons than there is to liking on it. And so let's get to it. So as I said, the cover I really liked. I think that the concept could have been really interesting had it been more executed better. I feel that this is also a story that would have been better told in a film, especially with how vague the author was trying to be. I think with a film, if it had been on screen, it could have been told a lot more, you know, a lot as vague as it was, and we would have still understood a lot because we would have been seeing things and seeing what was happening, whereas we only know as much as the author wants to tell us about the book when it comes to the book, because we can't actually see it. And so if he doesn't set up all those visuals and auditory and all those other kinds of smells and all those other kinds of things that we need in a book to be able to make sense of it, wasn't there. And then there wasn't much in the way of plot and character development either, I'm gonna say. And so when it gets to the horror aspects of the novel, I felt like they were done pretty well, as in it definitely created a creepy setting for me, and I was, you know, freaked out by some of the stuff that was happening, but it didn't get fully executed, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. And what I could make out of the concept was really cool. It seemed that all these people had, you know, various lives and various things they were doing, and for some reason they were under control of some other people, like whether they were working for them or threatened by them or whatever. They just kind of were at the mercy of the other people, and we don't know who the they are. They're just some random thing, whether it was like a government conspiracy. The most you know is that Shinwa is afraid of this guy De Laurentiis, and I think the character Osborne runs into him at the end too, but don't really know who he is, what he's doing exactly. And the time traveling aspect, you could tell that there was time traveling going on, but you didn't know where people were time traveling, like where and when people were time traveling to. You don't know how they were exactly doing it. It seemed that they were dying and then they'd wake up somewhere else in a different time period. But it always seemed like maybe they weren't time traveling too far. Like maybe they were going like a day or so, or a couple weeks or something. So really unclear on what situations they were, you know, going from and what situations they were going into next. You just know what kind of happened from each scene. It skips around. It follows, I don't want to say views because it's not necessarily coming from the character's viewpoint. It's not written first person at all, it's third person, and it jumps around different characters, and I think some of it might have been coming from whatever the creepy they might have been, but still really unclear. there's a lack of proper nouns being used for most of the book, so like you very sparingly would see a character's name, especially whichever one of the main people that he seemed to have. He had like 4 different main characters, and they were Osborne, Shinwa, Lawson, and Joblard. I can't remember too much about Joblard. I was looking at like the first chapter he's featured in, and apparently he was delivering some kinds of packages. I think Osborne was doing something similar, or he was sent to go do like separate, certain tasks for people and stuff. But I could be messing up Osborne and Joblard's story, or Joblard. I'm not really sure how to say it. It's Joblard. And then there's Shinwa, which I think I kind of remember the most. She was the junkie, and she was running from this man, De Laurentiis, and she wasn't sure if she was actually in her actual body or somebody else's body, and she was wanting to find out where her body was or something like that, and she wanted to get out from being under De Laurentiis' control so she could kill him, I think. And then there's Lawson, whose dad is an American and she is Australian, and I think she's Aboriginal, and she talks about the difference between the white man and her people, and she is trying to get to America and deal with some things because her life hasn't been that great in Australia. And that's pretty much as I can tell you about any of the characters. Like, they haven't quite stuck, and not too much, and sometimes I wasn't even sure whose chapter I was on, because you read a chapter and they were only mentioned once or twice. And at first, so I want to talk about the writings, and a lot of that has to do with the vagueness on like who was being mentioned and how sparingly their names would be used in the book. So I want to talk about the writing in this book. And at first, I was really liking how fast-paced the writing, because it was like really fast-paced and it was making it so things could like be read super quick. But it did come off as feeling like very fragmented. And then I got to the point where I started noticing that there were like issues with the wrong words being used. So where and were were being switched up, and new like NEW and new like I know something new. Or he knew about Frank and Liza kissing, something like that, and that's just a random sentence. But those kinds of words were getting switched up, and I have an example that I noticed at the end of the book, and it's on page 358. And don't worry, this isn't going to really give any plot away, because there's not much that I can really give away. But it says, just as long as we'll all understand each other, we all understand. So there's 2 sentences, but one, like, if you're going to say just as long we'll understand each other, you don't really need to. And why not just say just as long as we all understand? And so some of that seemed like lazy editing. For me, the writing also came off very fragmented, so there'd be very short sentences, and sometimes there'd be like 1 or 2 word like phrases that would be like mixed throughout the story. And so sometimes that got a little bothersome, where I just wish that he'd like describe things a little bit more. But it did really kind of flow pretty fast for the most part when it was like that. And it was pretty vague and could be a little hard to follow, and some of that, I don't know if some of the vagueness came from the lack of pronoun usage, or not pronoun, lack of proper noun usage, or if it was just failed to mention in the story. As I was reading this, I got to it took a long while before I felt like anything was going on in the book, and I was interested in what I was reading, and it was reading really fast, but I was like, where are these dead bodies that it promises on the back? And then I kind of started to realize that it seemed like the characters were dying and then time shifting. So that actually took a while for me to really pick up on. And then get to like the end of the book where the horror elements start to come in, and it seems interesting, but you still don't know, and you think that like all the storylines are about to like intermingle and connect a little bit, they don't quite. It just seems like similar events are happening to each different character. And then lastly, I got within like the last like 10, 15, 20 pages, and I'm like, there's no way this book is going to be wrapped up. And I'm like, okay, I'll continue reading. Maybe I'm wrong. I've been wrong in the past with books like that. But it did not wrap up. The book just kind of ended, and I was just left like, what's going on? What happened? Is this part of a series? And I went on Goodreads and I looked it up. It appears to be a standalone book. There's no series ending. The book just ends and you don't know what happened. Nothing got resolved. If it had ended in like all the characters dying or something, or very obvious that they were just going to be stuck in whatever kind of like time loop doing whatever they're going to do, I could have accepted that. But it just kind of ended and you're really left wondering what happened. And for the whole book, I'm kind of at the point where I just don't entirely know what happened. Maybe I just am not getting the book. I have a feeling many of you probably haven't heard of Cairo before. It has like 40 something reviews on Goodreads, so it doesn't seem like it's a highly regarded and well-known book. But if you have read this, can you please give me any heads up that you might have gotten from it, or let me know if you were just as lost as and clueless as I am. And that's about as much as I can say about this book. It was worth the read, but I don't know what I got out of it, and I'm gonna be giving this book away, but it's gonna go to a coworker and I'm gonna see what he thinks of it, and that's about as much as I can say. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe if you'd like, and if you'd like to receive notifications, please hit the bell icon. Ding ding. Bye guys, I hope to see you again.